We have representational systems. We have our visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, gustatory. Typically, since we don't have a whole lot of olfactory, gustatory input, most people don't go around tasting everyone. Unless you're a dog, you don't spend a whole lot of time sniffing other people. So we kind of throw those into the last one, olfactory, gustatory. One thing. So we have the three major representational systems, visual, auditory, kinesthetic, and then we have our olfactory, gustatory. So we have a four-tuple. You can look at what's going on in each of those four representational systems at any given time. They call it a four-tuple. We have filtering and processing always happening anytime that we're working in any of these systems. If you did not filter what's coming into you, do you realize quite how many bits of information? They say something like 6 million bits of information is impacting you at any given moment. What's that?
Is this in your learning and exploring? Is this sort of where autism goes into the mix?
Possibly. Autism, they tend to filter differently than non-autistics. Yeah, they have a hard time even seeing, hearing, interacting with the emotional aspect. And
It's
so
also it's too much and they can't.
And it may just be that they decide that they're filtering on completely different things. They're filtering on number of items instead of can't say the word today, just all.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't get the overall, they're stuck on a detail aspect. And that may be a filtering problem. It may be a filtering issue. When I did my trainer's training, we had a lot of battalions, and someone got up front and said, when you're working with an issue, because Americans don't have problems, they have issues. So, it may be a filtering issue, it may not. One of the things that you have to keep in mind is that a study in the 50s said that most people can only hold 7 plus or minus 2 pieces of information consciously at any given time. But we can take in that 6 million bits of information, whatever it is, and turn that into our 5 to 9 pieces of information that we can hold consciously. So a lot of that processing goes on unconsciously. It gets filtered. We get some representation, some portion of the things going on. One of the big areas that everybody filters, and some people filter better than others, is ambiguities. Anytime that you hear an ambiguity, you have to filter through all the possibilities. And the most common are the phonological ambiguities. See here now. We have multiple possibilities that we can have for each of these. We have to filter through, hey, no, he's not talking about the seashore. The sea is here now. Vitamin C. Here? Now. No, we filter through all of those things and make sense out of it. This is why all of the double entendres, the innuendo works the way that it does, is because most of that doesn't happen consciously. But somewhere you hear all of the possibilities, and you have to run through and do that filtering to say, oh, they must have meant this one. So, we have a lot of things going on there in all three representational systems. You filter visually. Nobody in here can tell me they haven't gone looking for their keys and it was sitting right where they left them. Or, hey, where are my glasses? Anybody see my glasses? I can't find my glasses. These are filtering, visually, typically. Everybody knows about auditory filtering. Selective hearing. We all do that on purpose a lot of the time in the classroom. We'll ignore the person in the corner, which is still Glenda. She just moved slightly different corner. So, we can filter in all of these, and we do filter in all of these. We also process through all three of the major representational systems. I'm not sure how much olfactory gustatory processing goes on, but I do know that your gustatory taste is very tied in with the olfactory, because if you smell, if your nose is clogged up, things don't taste right. They're tied together. It turns out that the olfactory is tied into your brain the fastest route. There is very little that goes on between your nose and your brain. So, we also know that a few molecules can trigger sensors in your nose. So, all it takes is a very small amount, and you can find out that you remember things from your 3rd grade because your 3rd grade teacher wore the same perfume every day. And if you happen to run across someone 25 years later that wears that same perfume, you go, oh, that was Mrs. So-and-so. I remember, and it all comes flooding back. So that's a combination of a couple of things, but we get, I'm not so sure of the process, olfactory. There is something suspicious. Something smells a little funny about this. So we have some things going on there. But we do use the 3 major ones: visual, auditory, kinesthetic. We represent what we saw, what we heard, what we felt. Hence, representational systems. We make an internal image, that map that I was talking about earlier. We say, hey, this is what I saw. And if you ask someone else sitting next to you what they saw, their representation will be completely different. It may have been focused on shoes instead of on handbags. It may have been focused on statistics instead of on what the teacher happened to be talking about, which may or may not have been statistics. So, we have a lot of processing that goes on in the 3 major representational systems. The representational systems also, we have at least 2 or 3 different ways that we interact in each of these systems.